At 1:15 in the early hours of the morning, the police received an emergency call. The caller begged for help in a highly anxious tone, though the operator calmly asked her for information. The woman on the other end was already incoherent. Fortunately, the call came from a landline, so the police could trace her location directly. After two patrol officers drove to the scene, they saw that the light upstairs was still on. The male officer then headed into the building with his gun drawn to check the situation, while the female officer stayed outside on watch, ready to offer backup at any moment. Yet several minutes passed with no movement from inside the house. No report came over the radio from his colleague. When the female officer sensed something wrong and radioed to check on him, only his faint, dying cry for help came through the speaker. The next day, Berg, the detective assigned to the case, viewed their bodies at the morgue. The forensic examiner stated plainly that the officers' deaths were disturbingly bizarre. As the white sheet was slowly lifted, Berg saw that both responding officers had been brutally decapitated. The killer had struck with ruthless efficiency, leaving almost no trace, since the victims were their close work colleagues. Overwhelming pressure and fear washed over Berg. The crime scene itself was shrouded in odd details. Investigation results showed the male officer bore no defensive wounds from a struggle, and his service weapon had never been fired. The female officer's fate was identical to her partner's, even though the killer had beheaded them inside the house. No dripping blood trails were found where the heads had been moved. This indicated he had placed the heads straight into some kind of bag or container. In short, the killer had taken the heads away with him. The coroner suspected the murder weapon was a serrated kitchen knife with a blade length of 10 to 12 centimeters. This type of knife was extremely common in households, making it impossible to trace through supply chain checks. The only other piece of physical evidence left at the scene was a bloody shoe print. Unless the print belonged to whoever discovered the bodies, it was most likely left by the killer. The homeowner had been attending a music festival at the time, with solid proof confirming his alibi. Shortly afterwards, the shoe print analysis yielded initial findings, and Berg shared the update with his team. It was a right foot running shoe print, size 43. 3 additional left foot sneaker prints were also recovered from the scene, yet they came from a completely different brand and model. This strongly suggested very few perpetrators were involved, at most 1 or 2 people. Team member John then raised a critical question. Where was the woman who had made the emergency call? 18 hours had passed, and there was still no sign of her. Her voice had sounded terrified on the phone, so the call could not have been a hoax. With that, John replayed the emergency recording, and the entire task force fell into a heavy silence. 2 days later, the landlord returned home from the music festival. Berg visited him immediately for questioning. He learned that the man had bought the house recently and spent most of his time away on business trips. The homeowner cooperated fully and handed over his phone and computer for police inspection, effectively ruling him out as a suspect. The case had hit a complete dead end. Just then, Berg received a text message from his superior informing him of a new, connected lead. 2 weeks earlier, a female police officer named Johnson had been murdered at a local port. Her throat had also been cut with a kitchen knife, and the wound was located in exactly the same position as those on the 2 slain officers. However, television news had already announced that Johnson's killer had been arrested and imprisoned. Berg and his superior both knew deep down that their fellow officers had apprehended the wrong man. The real killer had traveled to this area and murdered 2 more police officers.